Good evening. I am Richard S. McGee, and you're watching The Learning Tree. To my right is Michelle Chalmers. Michelle Chalmers and I began the Learning Tree in 2013, on April the 13th. We sat down one day and decided that we wanted to have a show. But before we can go there, we have to do a little background, a little history on this whole thing. And by the way, how are you, Michelle?
Oh, great, Richard.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. We both belong to the world of Wellesley. For about 17 years, I was chairman of the board. And Michelle came to one of our meetings. But when was that?
You know, I was actually thinking about that when you told me I was going to be on Well to Wellesley.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember where we were and how we actually engaged in the conversation. But I remember you basically saying to me, yeah, you're going to be on Well to Wellesley, so you need to come to a meeting at Mass Bay.
Okay, all right.
And I remember I was very interested in everything that you were doing and the mission and just the whole concept of it. And I remember I came to Mass Bay and met the board, and here we are.
Well, you got the wrong school, though. We were meeting in the Wellesley Club.
It was Mass Bay. It was.
We were having our meeting at Mass Bay?
Yes, it was Mass Bay. Remember, what was the name of the woman that from Mass Bay? Not Marlena. Do you remember? Was she?
You mean the woman who got us the computer man who set up our...
Yes, the intern.
Yes, I remember.
Yes, do you
Yeah,
remember her
you're right,
name?
you're right. Don't do that to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's why you have me here, Richard, to help you to remember it all.
But I do remember that most of our meetings were held in the...
After, yeah. But when I started with you, we were at Mass Bay Community College.
Right, that's right.
Yes.
Right outside the cafeteria, somewhere in there. I went.
Yeah, I think on the second floor, actually.
Okay. So Michelle came, and within a short time, we elected her to the board. Mm-hmm. And I was in awe with all this energy that came from this lady, you know, and she was up and running and going and thinking and talking and, you know,
and talking.
And one of the features of Michelle, which she still possesses, is that Michelle thinks, and Michelle thinks, and Michelle thinks, and she acts on what she thinks. On the other hand, there are most of us who think and we take a rest. And then we act. And then we take another thought, and then we act. Not Michelle. Michelle thinks, and she thinks, and she acts, and she acts. Well, one of the things that began to endear us to Michelle is that her thoughts were to sell the world of Wellesley. Everything that it had to offer. The only problem is that Michelle would go outside of the system. She was a single seller. So we had to talk to Michelle about the board and the authority of the board and its duties and responsibilities, and that whenever we did something, we should bring it to the board for the board's approval. And we did that discussion for quite a while. On our last discussion on that subject, we were in the library, in the meeting room in the library. And I was saying to Michelle, you know, we've got to figure out a way to energize, to use your great energies. And before I could bat my eyes, I looked at her and I said, how would you like to do a show? And you see that beam on her face now? That was the beam that I got when I said, how would you like to do a show? And she said, great, great. So we went to the studio, which was in another building at the time. And James Brooks is the executive director. We talked to James about it. James liked the idea. So on April 13th, we sat down and began to plot our course for a show. And Michelle came up with all kinds of great ideas, and she set up a ledger for us, and timing and a whole bunch of things. A lot of things I could get my fingers around.
And then you had that great logo, and then I
Yes.
created the, with that logo, we created sort of the colors and put that
Yes,
together.
she did. She did
Yep.
that. Yeah.
Now, do you remember sort of like what were your goals when you created this? Like what were you thinking about? What were you hoping to do?
You mean the show or the,
Yeah,
or the
the
World of
show.
Wellesley?
No,
well, let's
the
talk a little
learning
bit more
tree.
about the World of Wellesley, though. So
Oh, okay, because I
need-
want to hear.
Yeah, we need a little background for the World of Wellesley. But the World of Wellesley was created in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
It was founded by a Filipino woman by the name of Terry Tedesco. But we never really did any work. We didn't have a program of any type until 1991. And that first program was for half a day in the Wellesley Community Center.
Now, you wanted it to be like a human rights commission, right? Didn't you want it to be part of?
Well, no, you lay that on me. There were the background of it all is that an incident happened,
Right.
and out of that incident, there were meetings between the town people,
The Board of Selectmen?
the officials,
Okay.
and black residents, and
Just
it was
black
called
residents,
the
or-
D. Brown affair.
Okay.
You know, and out of that, there was some discussion about what could we do to, well, the real issue was that D. Brown was accused of being a bank robber because he was a black man. In reality, there was a black man who did rob the North Fork, was it North Shore Bank, which was across the street from the bank, from the post office on Washington Street.
Right.
And D. Brown just happened to end up there at the wrong time because he had a post office box in that post office. And the clerk looked out the window and identified him as the robber,
Right.
not knowing that he had just been drafted by the Celtics.
And had been living in Wellesley for 5 years.
Yeah, yes. And he was surrounded by about 8 Wellesley police officers,
Yeah.
and only to be found out they had made a terrible mistake. So that's how this meeting came about. We used to meet these once a week in the community center. And out of it, it was decided that we should have a Human Rights Commission and a Police Community Relations Committee. And I was drafted because I had some experience in human rights.
Sure.
And when we went to the Board of Selectmen, and they impaneled perhaps the first multiracial panel in the town.
Oh, wow.
11 members, right. And because I had been one of the focal points during the discussions, I was elected chairman of the committee. And our charge was to come up with an idea for a Human Rights Commission.
Now, do you remember some of the people that were on that committee? Was
Well, one
Professor
prominent person was
Cash?
Theodore Parker.
Theodore Parker.
Tony Parker.
Tony Parker. Okay.
Tony Parker. Theodore Tony Parker was on that.
Okay. Now he was on which? He was on.
He was on the Human Rights.
He was on the Human Rights panel.
Human Rights Commission,
Or,
right.
Okay, on the commission.
He was also on the Board of Selectmen at the time.
Oh, okay.
Right. And let's see, there was a professor from Wellesley College.
Was that Pash Obing?
Posh was not on.
Pash wasn't.
Posh was not on there,
Okay.
no. But there was a chemistry professor from Wellesley College. There was a woman who subsequently left Wellesley and went to Brown, and I can't remember them all.
Right.
That's
But when you
young.
say a Human Rights Commission, are you saying that it was part of the Wellesley sort of town government, or are you just saying it was a group that
No,
was
no,
formed?
it would be a town organization.
It would be, but
It
that's
would.
what you were trying to organize.
It would be.
Okay.
It would be. So.
What about the white people? Was there just people of color? Or was there
No,
any
no,
white
no.
people?
It was a mixed board.
Okay.
11 members, a mixed board. The mixed board, very mixed. First mixed board of its kind in the town of Wellesley.
Okay, great.
We met for 9 months. We had 4 public hearings. They were some of them were kind of comical because lawyers would come with their briefs and really give these dissertations on why the town did not need a human rights commission. At the time, we were also thinking that we should have subpoena power for that commission. That was a stickler.
Was that your idea?
That was no. Remember, there are 11 of us.
Right. These
are not all mine. These are coming from the committee. These come from the committee.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that really got into the.
So what was the argument? Was it that they didn't think there was discrimination? They didn't think that there was really a need for it? Is it because obviously
that latter is right. They didn't think there was a need for such an organization. And the argument was, why do we need that organization in this town?
Right.
You know,
we don't have racism here.
We don't have the problem. At any rate, after 4 open meetings and 9 months of study, we took to the Board of Selectmen a 600-page report.
Wow.
And we were told that they didn't need it by the Board of Selectmen. In the meantime, my friend over at Wellesley College had the police community relations piece of it. And he made his presentation before we made ours. And he has this nice, big, booming voice with the threatening tones. And so,
who's that? You don't remember his name?
So, yeah.
Yes, Professor.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
I know exactly who he is.
We'll find it at the moment.
I'm going to think of it while you're talking.
Yeah. At any rate, he made his presentation for the Police Community Relations Committee, and they started talking about giving him a study committee. Ours was a study committee, by the way. And he opened up his mouth and roared loudly, and they voted in his police community.
Wow.
Well, I don't have that capacity to scare people into doing what I want them to do.
Wow.
So I got a study committee, and my study committee failed in its efforts to form a Human Rights Commission.
So what did the professor's committee do? That he got
they formed the committee. They formed the Police Community Relations Committee. But
okay.
later on, the town adopted a Human Relations Committee, which had authority to investigate complaints, which lasted 6 months, and it went out of existence.
Oh, no.
Now, how Terry Tedesco got involved? Terry used to come to all the meetings. She used to come to every meeting, and she was determined to have some venue for discussing diversity and racism in the town. So she started the World of Wellesley, and that's where we went.
Yeah.
The World of Wellesley is now 28 years
Yeah.
old. 28 years old. And my good friend Michelle, sitting to my right, ran me out of it and took over the presidency.
Never ran you out of it. It's not the truth.
After 25 years, I decided
Yeah.
that I should take a break.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But anyway, in this meeting that we had, and we decided to do, well, that's a little bit about the World of Wellesley. But anyway, we have 2 key programs that have lasted for most of the duration of the World of Wellesley. One is the essay program, which sees about 400 students in the 5th grade every year.
Yes.
Who write their essays, and from the 7 elementary schools, and 2 from each school are chosen to receive some commendation.
Absolutely. I just met with the Assistant Superintendent, Joan Dabrowski, and the English specialist, the department head for Wellesley Public Schools, and 2 other representatives from Wellesley Public Schools. And again, you know, it's wonderful because World of Wellesley, in that collaboration with Wellesley Public Schools, every year sits down, reviews, the program. And we talked about this year is that they want to incorporate it into the curriculum, because it's part of the curriculum, meaning all of the schools participate in the 5th grade, but they want it to be streamlined where it's part of, you know, the process. It's part of what the students are learning, and they're thinking that it might end up in the 4th grade because of the units that they're working on in history and English. And so it literally would be part of what the students are doing. Because right now it's sort of an addition to, and some teachers allow children to do it as homework out of school. Some teachers allow children to write the essay in school. And so now, hopefully next year, it will be streamlined in the program, in the curriculum, and then the teachers actually will all be instructing the same way, and it'll actually be part of the curriculum.
Will it be a classroom thing or
it will be a classroom event.
Classroom project.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So we're really excited about that, and we've updated the
So
prompts.
has anything changed in the structure of the program?
We changed the prompts. We updated the prompts. We wanted children to be more self-reflective and to think about, you know, being an upstander, being an ally, and what do you do if you encounter, you know, something that's happening that you think might be an injustice or obviously impacting a friend or impacting someone that you care about, and just thinking about it, you know, from, you know, the children's perspective, and really getting the children to think about what you're learning, what you're hearing, what you're seeing, and what can we do about it. So they have been, the essays over the years have been amazing, you know, reading.
I remember, yes.
And they really have. So we're really excited. Obviously, the World of Wellesley is excited to have a program like that with the collaboration of the schools. They, the superintendent, assistant superintendent, really look forward to it every year. And then we have the presentation of the 2 students that are selected from every school. It's on June 8th this year. And all of the children receive a certificate signed by World of Wellesley and the superintendent, and all the essays are then published in the paper, in the Wellesley Townsman. So
what I was very amazed with is the fact that the parents or the grandparents and other relatives of these kids come from as far away as Maine.
Yes.
For this little 1-hour event in Town Hall.
Absolutely.
And
That's a
that
big
was
deal.
amazing.
It is a big deal.
That was amazing.
I actually was invited to the Republican town council meeting, and I got to be introduced to the members of the Republican committee, and had a little discussion, and then as we were, you know, finishing up and I was walking away, one of the gentlemen come over to me and he's like, my son, when he was in 5th grade, was a selected essay he wrote about Martin Luther King for the World of Wellesley essay, and he still has it up on his wall, his award. And I mean, I'm guessing this child is now older. So it was kind of neat to see that, you know, the parents were still proud, and when they hear World of Wellesley, you know, that's something that they recognize. So I thought that was really neat.
That's nice.
And I just remember Professor Cujo.
Selwyn Cujo.
Knew I would have it.
Selwyn Cujo. Selwyn Cujo had the Police Community Relations Committee, right? And he got his committee.
I don't know how we could forget Professor Cujo, to be totally honest. He's a great guy. So, yes. So that, I think the program, it's exciting, and there really isn't anything else like it in the curriculum, where children get to be really reflective about areas around, you know, injustice, around human difference, around racism. I think the curriculum is certainly changing, and I think the Wellesley Public Schools, as they've updated their history curriculum, and they have incorporated more opportunities for children to think and talk about human rights issues and injustice. So that's always a good thing. And I think that the World of Wellesley's essay that's been going on, it's got to be 14, 15 years.
By the way, we should note that Selwyn was the former chairman of the Afro-American Studies program at Wellesley College for a number of years.
He isn't now?
But No, he's still there.
Yeah.
He's still in the program, but
Yeah.
he also teaches at Harvard. So maybe that's why they didn't listen to me. All right, that's the program that's continuing going on, as Michelle has outlined. It has been a very successful program. The other program, of course, is the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast every year,
Yes.
which for 7 years was hosted by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, for 3 years by Sun Life, and for the last 3 years by Wellesley College.
Yes.
And this past January, there was a very successful program and breakfast at Wellesley College. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so Dr. Robin Chapman, who is provost, Wellesley College provost and
Associate provost.
Associate provost,
Right.
and diversity and inclusion. I want to get her title exactly right, but I know she's the associate provost, like you said, and diversity and inclusion officer, and for Wellesley College. So she's also a member of our board of World of Wellesley, and so her and I and other board members put together the Martin Luther King Breakfast. And this year we were excited for our keynote speaker to be Chuck Collins, who wrote a book called Born on Third Base. And so he was our keynote speaker. He is a one percenter. That
What's
was
a
born. A
1%er?
1%er is a person that was born into the 1% of the economic class status.
Rich people.
His rich people. His great grandfather was Oscar Mayer, and he went to high school with Mitt Romney.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And some other well-known
I knew Mitt
people.
Romney when he was before he was Mitt Romney. As a
So
young man.
Chuck lives in Jamaica Plain right now, and he's written several books, and he's the head of an organization called inequality.org. He has a great website on economic inequality and does a lot of work and important work. So that was our community read for World of Wellesley this year, and so we invited him as sort of a preview to be the keynote speaker, where we had well over 100 people attend the Martin Luther King breakfast. And we obviously have the Kumbah Singers and the step team from Wellesley High
Singers
School.
from Harvard University, right?
And they are just fabulous.
They are.
And Tyler from Wellesley Access Media filmed the entire event. You can go on Wellesley Access Media on their YouTube and watch the whole thing.
Okay.
So you can see the Martin Luther King breakfast
All right.
if you missed it.
All right. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So now those are some of the highlights. Later we'll talk a little bit about where the World of Wellesley is now, but we want to go back and look at the learning tree. Having put together our first program, which was the METCO program.
Yes.
Our guests on that program were Jean McGuire,
Yep, Dr. Jean McGuire.
who was the executive director, Rhonda Longmore,
Yeah.
and I forget the last name of from Boston.
Mike. That was another parent, right?
Michael.
Yeah, Kincaid.
Michael
Kincaid.
Kincaid, right.
Yes.
They were the guests for that program.
That's right.
And you
So-
were the moderator.
Yes.
Yes. Michelle used to open the program up by introducing me as her co-host.
What was I supposed to do?
That's fine.
Richard.
Talk a little bit about that program.
I can't believe that I was trying to remember as you think about the anniversary and the start of the show that I think that was wonderful that we did, highlighted METCO, and I thought that having the executive director of the METCO program
What is
was
METCO?
wonderful. METCO stands for the
Metropolitan
Metropolitan Council for Educational Opportunity.
Right.
It is not an acronym that works well, but it is a program that works well.
Right.
So METCO is a volunteer desegregation program.
Okay.
I think that a lot of people don't understand truly why METCO was created and why we have it.
Do you understand why that?
Well, sure. I've done some research on that and wrote a book called The Story of Metco for Children.
Okay.
That you are able to read the book to children and explain to them what the program is. So in 1966, we had the Racial Imbalance Act, which basically was taking a look at, after Brown versus Board of Education, obviously trying to integrate schools. You had schools that were obviously all black and brown, and you had schools that were white, and so looking at how do you integrate schools and provide more access and opportunity for everyone. And so Metco was created, some black and African American families, really looking at the injustice and inequality in the education for their children in Boston Public Schools and other areas where black and brown people were relegated to live because of federal housing policies and redlining and all of the racist practices that have created so much inequality in our country, that they wanted their children to have access and opportunity to a great education. And so that was certainly the push for the program. But the reason why the program was certainly accepted is because you have towns that are isolated by race. And you have a town like Wellesley, which was one of the first 7 towns that volunteered to become part of Metco, that are predominantly white, if not all white.
How many towns now have a Metco program?
We have 37 towns that are part of Metco.
Right.
Suburban towns, yes. Yeah. So there's actually like 33 or 34 towns that surround the Boston area, and then you have 3 or 4 towns that surround Springfield.
Okay.
So 3,000 children that are bused out of Boston and Springfield every day to go to school in predominantly white districts. And so it was really to allow opportunities for white children and families to engage with people of color, and for people of color to be able to engage with white people, because again of our racialized housing policies, that was very difficult. And so Metco is the second longest running desegregation program in the country, and has been going on now for 50 years. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary this year.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get them on my show here. Someday I will.
Oh, absolutely.
On the 51st, 52nd.
Well, that's all right. It's a year long. You still have some time. So it's, it's a program that really looked at not just obviously making schools, access and opportunity for kids of color, but to really, look at racial isolation. And what would it be like to grow up? I mean, I think about my dad, who grew up in Cambridge as, a white man who never met a person of color until he was 30.
In Cambridge?
In Cambridge. In Cambridge.
Okay.
Never went to school with a person of color.
In ancient days.
Went to Matignon High School, never a person of color. He said really the only person of color that he could really identify was Linda Walker, Reverend Linda Walker, who used to be on TV.
Reverend
Walker. Yes. So that's a problem. That's a problem.
Okay. Now you've just explained and defined why I started the Learning Tree. The Learning Tree was begun because there needed to be a venue for getting this kind of discussion and enlightening the public about things like Metco and the whole issue of desegregation and segregation and racism and diversity. And so in the world of Wellesley, we were limited. We still are limited as to the number of people we touch base with. On TV, I have no idea how many people watch my show, but I am encouraged because every once in a while someone comes up to me at Roach Brothers or in CVS and says, I saw you on the show.
Great.
And gentleman that I was in town meeting with for many years at the Wellesley Club meeting came to me and says, "You do a good thing, keep it up."
Great.
You only need one or two of those
I agree.
to buoy you and keep
agree.
you moving along. But that's the answer to your question.
Yeah.
Why did I start the learning tree? And we'll talk about the more of these good programs that we put on. But let's move from Metco, and I'm going to deal with the program that you moderated. All right.
Okay.
To begin with, higher education, diversity in higher education. We had the senior vice president from the Board of Education.
Yes.
Yes. We had a professor from by the name of I'm blocking on her name, but anyway, there were 4 people in all on that.
Yeah.
on
Was
that
Katrina Flood from Babson on that panel?
program. Was who?
Katrina Flood?
No, Flood was not on that program.
She wasn't on that program?
She wasn't on the program, no.
I'm trying to remember all of the people that were on that program.
Yeah.
But we had a great
Yeah.
panel
Let's
conversation.
see if we can
Do you
find
have
it
that
here.
list?
Huh?
Yeah, if you have that list, that would be great.
Yeah, I got the list there. But go ahead. Yeah. Let's see what we got. But that was a good program.
That was a good program.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, there was a new program that was being discussed that night regarding first-time families or students who were entering college for the first time in their family.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a new program that was being implemented that was trying to
was doing
engage
that?
parents. Was that the representative from the state, from the education program, I think, right?
Yeah.
And he talked about engaging parents who had never been to college before and trying to help their students sort of navigate that process, create a savings account, and ways to be able to access scholarships,
Yeah.
and really taking a look at what does it mean to be a first year,
Okay, here we
a
are.
first
Some
time
names.
college student.
In that higher education program, we had, where had I lost them? Can't stand computers. But anyway, Dr. Donna Bonaparte, who's vice president and human resources at Babson College.
Yes, I remember.
Robin Chapman. Dr. Robin Chapman.
There she is.
Yeah, well,
What is her exact title? Was it listed there?
Associate Provost, academic, Director of Diversity and Inclusion.
Director of Diversity and Inclusion.
Wellesley College.
Sorry, Robin.
Okay. We had Carlos Santiago.
Yes, it was Carlos.
PhD from and we had he was from the Mass Commission of Higher Education.
Okay.
Okay, who else was that? Okay, Dr. Talib Kadari.
Dr. Kadari.
Kadari.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Sajid's daughter.
Yeah, okay.
She was at Roxbury Community College, right?
So those were the 4 people on that panel.
Yes, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
I was so nervous. I was. You put me in front of a lot of people that were pretty impressive.
Well, you want me to go in there. And another good program of yours was Diversity in Business. Do you remember that panel? Tina?
Of course, Dr. Tina Opie.
Yeah.
How can I forget Dr. Tina
And
Opie?
who else was on your program panel? Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a very, very good one. I did the police panel.
Jack Lane from Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare.
Yep.
Joe Curtin from Roach Brothers.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And Todd, no, her name,
Who else was there? From Sun Life?
from Sun Life.
Kitty.
Yeah. Kitty.
Kitty.
Kitty. What was Kitty's
You're
name?
lucky I've got the first name. I remember her name, of course.
Yeah, she was an associate
great.
director of human resources.
I wonder if she's still there.
No, she's not.
Oh.
No, she's
Well,
on.
hopefully she's moved on, bigger and better things.
I got a note from her every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do
That
you
was a
remember?
great
You remember the
panel.
details of that panel? On her.
I'm trying to. What do you remember?
Well, I remember that you ran it.
Okay. Let me see if I remember. I remember that Dr. Tina Opie was studying a lot about hair and what was looked at as business appropriate, what was looked at as professional. And for black women with hair, that was a very important and interesting conversation as to how it's just amazing how the human diversity of ourselves and somehow these norms that are set up and who gets to decide what is business like and what isn't, what is professional, what is acceptable. So that was a very interesting panel, and Dr. Tina Opie has written some amazing articles and information on just, again, when women are oppressed, it's just very difficult.
No.
It's very difficult to understand,
No.
for sure. So I know that we talked a little bit about that. Trying to remember what else we talked about in terms of, I remember with Harvard Pilgrim, they were looking at the business case for diversity.
Yeah.
And
Jack was the director of diversity and inclusion.
yes.
Right.
And so it was really interesting. I know that they were rolling out, some from the top down, and that's really where a lot of change has to come from. Is that you have to have the CEOs, the COOs, the CFOs on board to understand the importance of human diversity and diversity of ideas, diversity of experiences, diversity of knowledge, diversity of backgrounds, and that certainly has to come from the top. And that certainly was coming from Harvard Pilgrim, and them really looking at what are we missing? What are we missing by not understanding human diversity? How are we, who are our clients? Who are we marketing towards? And if we are supposed to be, a service that provides, healthcare or insurance, what are we doing to be able to make sure that that opportunity is available to everybody, and in a way that can be received, whether it's language, whether it's culture. So I was very, encouraged by that conversation, for sure. And Sun Life expressed some of the same things. And understanding the importance of diversifying, not only your staff, but thinking about your clients and who you're marketing towards.
Well, let me give you a comical one now.
Okay, what did we do?
Diversity in police department work.
That was comical.
You don't remember
Richard,
that?
of course I remember. We had Chief Brooks
Brooks.
from Norwood, who used to be assistant, right?
He used to be the
Or
deputy chief
chief
in
of
Wellesley.
Very nice
Terry
man.
Cunningham,
And
who was the chief, and Jennifer Rowe, assistant district attorney.
That's right.
And I think Paul Murray. Yeah, Murray, civil rights attorney, was
There
on
you
that.
go.
And you're sitting up there with these folks, and we're about to begin the program, and you turn and ask me, should I ask them the questions that you wrote?
Did I do that?
I said, well, you asking me if you should. We wrote the question together. Why are you turning and asking
Why
me?
did I do that? Was
You
I
were scared.
Was I scared? Maybe I probably was. Like I said, this is something new.
See, one of those questions was, do you have an opinion about any of the activities of specific law enforcement practices that have been noted by the media? Stand your ground and stop and frisk.
Wow.
You weren't going to ask that question. You turned and you asked me.
Did I end up? I hope that I did. I probably didn't get an answer, but I hope that I did. Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I want to go back and watch that show now. See what I said.
Yeah, I said, "Oh, why is she asking me?"
Yes.
We wrote those questions together.
Right.
Well, that was the funniest of most of them. I think the one that I enjoyed a lot was the one on healthcare,
Okay.
which I moderated. That had the new president of the Mass Medical Association, Ronald Dunlap, and it had Augustus White, MD, who was a professor at Harvard Medical School and renowned neurosurgeon, or was he? No, orthopedic surgeon.
Oh, okay.
And then we had David Nathan, who ran the diabetic clinic at Mass General Hospital. And they put on quite a presentation. That was a good presentation. They engaged in it, and I put in my 2 cents every once in a while. But I mostly let them do the talking, and I think it was a good program. There were several programs that I.
What about the one with the religion? Remember we had the imam. Was he an imam? Or he was a Muslim. He was from Babson College, from the Muslim faith. We had a rabbi from Temple Beth Elohim. We had Professor Pash Obing, who is a minister at the Congregational Church.
Yeah.
And that was a great conversation. And you know what? I never asked them if they followed up with each other, because they had talked about after they were done having that conversation that they wanted to meet up again, that they wanted to have a continued conversation. I wonder if it did.
I don't think it is.
You know, Richard, it might have.
No. Well, not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
No. But then you, after the first year, you decided to go off and do some very interesting things, and left me alone to carry on this business. So for the last 2 years, I've been alone and lonely.
Oh, it seems like you've been doing well. Have you been for the last 2 years? Is it every week? No, every couple of weeks.
I was doing at one point. I was doing almost every other week. I was doing a show every other week.
Yeah.
My approximation of the number of programs that were completed in the 3-year period, about 75.
Wow, 75 shows. That's amazing.
I counted the people the other day for some reason, and it's over 200 people that have come before the cameras.
That's great. You're almost like Oprah.
And I've done a lot of good programs. I've enjoyed most of them. Some have been rather challenging, and the one I think the few that I can point out that I really had some fun with was one in housing, where I had 2 housing developers and 2 town people. One was the chief inspector of housing. The other one was the executive director for the planning board. And we talked a lot about how small houses end up on small lots, large houses end up on small lots.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of discussion about that. So,
you talk about affordable housing?
No, we didn't. Yeah, well, there was some discussion about affordable housing, but we know that the state mandates that each town and city sets aside 10% of its housing for affordable.
Right.
We know.
And Wellesley
has 5%.
Yeah, it's about 6.5.
They've always had about 5%, and I don't think they're going to move very much.
Oh, yes, they will.
How do you know? What do you know that I don't know?
Yes, they will. That's.
What do you know that I don't know?
Because it needs to happen. It absolutely needs to happen. So.
Well, tell me what you know.
We'll see.
And we know it needs to happen,
We'll
but
see.
how making it happen?
Well, of course,
that's
of
a whole-
course, and nothing is ever easy, but it's a conversation that needs to be had, and something that really needs to happen. It needs to happen for a lot of reasons, and inequality, economic inequality, is one of them, and really thinking about, what type of community do you want to live in? I've been part of the steering committee for Wellesley, the Unified Plan, and there's a lot of conversation about really thinking about what type of town and kind of town do you want to live in. And so reflective of our world, reflective of our country in terms of the diversity, not just racially, but in socioeconomic status, is important to people, and it's important to a lot of people. And so it is something that is sort of gaining a lot more traction and conversation, and it is something that's important and will be part of the Unified Plan. So,
Unified Plan. I heard that name before.
yes, absolutely.
Yes,
Google it, Unified Plan Wellesley. We're like one of the only towns that is really engaging in this type of all-encompassing strategic plan to look at, the values of this town. And there's amazing information and PDFs and mapping and highlights. You can see all the meetings online. So some good stuff is happening.
And you've got your fingers in.
Well, a little, but luckily there's a lot of community members that that are thinking about these things. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And I've just been elected to the Housing Authority Board, the Wellesley Housing Authority Board.
Yes. What is the authority board?
The Wellesley Housing Authority has a board that's made up of 5 people. One person is elected or selected by the governor, and then you have 3 people that are elected by the town, and then you have 1 person that's elected by the tenant association or the tenants who live in the Wellesley Housing Authority.
Oh.
And so our governance, board is to assist the executive director and the assistant executive director with the Wellesley Housing Authority in their duties, and being able to reflect, again, the values and what's important for the residents at the Wellesley Housing Authority, and make sure that everything is done fairly and just. So it's exciting. It's a lot.
So what does this board report? Who has responsibility for this board, or is it a set-aside board?
It's
a standalone board.
Well, I mean, it's a board. The Wellesley Housing Authority is part of the state, funded by the state. And so with DHA,
What's DHA?
DHA, the Department of Housing Association. I'm guessing. I don't even know what. It's not
Housing
DHA.
Authority.
It's DHCD. DHCD is the
Okay.
acronym.
All right.
And so the board is part of, it's state mandated to be able to have a board that oversees the executive director of the housing authorities.
Okay.
And so that we're sort of part of DHCD, and obviously responsible to the Wellesley Housing Authority.
And where do you fit in there?
Well, I've just been, elected just last month, and been with the board for a couple of months, and because I took over a term of someone who had left the board. So it's a lot of learning, a lot of understanding rules and regulations and policies, and really, as the president of World of Wellesley, and when you are trying to engage a community around making sure the community is welcoming for everyone, I think it was important for me to be able to understand the families and the people that live in the town. And the Wellesley Housing Authority is residence for a lot of people, and a lot of people that over the years have not had a voice in this community, and a lot of times don't feel a part of the community and don't feel welcomed in the community. And so that obviously is something that is definitely not okay. And so I thought that understanding a little bit more about the Wellesley Housing Authority and getting to meet a lot of the people that live in the Barton community, that live in the residences behind the police station, and the 4 other areas of affordable housing that we have in Wellesley. That I thought that again, was very, very important in trying to make sure that whenever we can connect, that we do that, whenever we can provide access and opportunity for people who might, again, be living in, with low income, less access and opportunity, language barriers, cultural differences, that we try to engage. And so that is my hope, is that, we can get more of the wider Wellesley community to understand the families that want the same things that they do.
All right.
They want to live in a safe town. They want to raise their children in great schools, and they want to just be happy as much as you can.
Speaking of safe towns, I did 2 additional shows with Terry Cunningham.
After the one that we had done originally. So he was on 3 shows?
I did 3 shows with Terry.
Wow.
Right. Well, the last 2 were with him alone in one.
Okay.
And him.
Was that after he met with President Obama, or before?
That was after.
After.
And the other was him and Bill Brooks.
Oh, okay.
The one that I met with him singly, he had been to Rwanda.
Yes.
And he had sent me some pictures to look at from Rwanda.
Yes, I remember those.
And there he is in the sea of blackness. And I asked him a question. How did you feel being the only white man in the sea of black people?
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he says, frightened.
Yeah.
I said, well, did you learn anything? And we had a good conversation. He had I think we displayed at least 6 or 8 of the pictures that he brought back with him.
Yeah.
And he seemed to understand, get the feel for what it's like to be in a society where you are then the minority. Or perhaps in that instance, the only person.
Yeah. Well, like Martin Luther King says, we fear each other because we don't know each other.
Right.
And we don't know each other because we
That's
don't
right.
live near each other. We don't communicate with each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, at that time
That's interesting.
he was the first vice president of the International Association of Police Chiefs. The second was after he became the 4th, and then became the president.
Right.
Of the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and Brooks had become the chief, the chairman of the president of the Mass Association of Chiefs of Police. So that was another good conversation. This was retrospectively, he could talk about, the experience of having traveled around the world almost.
Yeah.
And dealt with a variety of different people, different nationalities, different races, and what it felt like and how he felt about it, the whole thing. And it was a good experience for him.
Yeah. What did you think about, obviously here you have the Wellesley police chief in the position on the task force of President Obama's looking at police brutality and injustice. And
notice
what
he
did you
put his
think
picture
about
in the Wellesley program book with him
and President Obama? Absolutely, absolutely. It's a great picture. But what did you think, as a black man, that this chief of police apologized for police brutality?
Well, I thought it was something that in the position that he held, it was an appropriate thing to do. There are some questions as to whether or not what he really said is what we really understood. And
well, what did you think? How did you take it?
I thought it was a good move on his part, for whatever reason. and got into a discussion with Jack, who was now his
Chief
is now the
Pilecki?
chief,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
who said, I suggested to Jack what I thought he said, and Jack said to me, "You're wrong." So we let it go.
Interesting. Sounds like he needs to be on a show.
I've invited him.
Yeah.
We'll be together sometime
Yeah.
before long. Yeah.
Well, and I also have plans to be speaking with Chief Pilecki too, so I hope that we'll be able to. Lieutenant Cleary is amazing. Lieutenant Marie Cleary has been so supportive and of World of Wellesley and all of the initiatives and things that we've been doing. She's almost at every event. You know, I just saw her at the last event that we just had with Chuck Collins, the author of Born on Third Base. And she read the book and said, you know, Michelle, this really made me think. And when I read about the inequality and I read about the economic inequality and the reasons for it and the history behind it and the laws behind it, and she's like, this really impacted me to think differently. And I was just thrilled. You know, that is why we do what we do, right, Richard? I mean, you try to bring information and new information or old information to people to have a new possible understanding, a new lens. And when you have that interaction one-on-one and you suddenly see, you know, the light bulb go off, so to speak, in a person, it's just amazing, and it's such an amazing gift. We had a white man who lives in Wellesley who attended the event also with Chuck Collins, and he said after reading this book, and he also came to the library, World of Wellesley co-sponsored an event with the library for watching the documentary Race, the Power of an Illusion, the PBS documentary. Have you ever seen that? The Race, the Power of an Illusion? Oh, no. It's such a fabulous documentary. So he watched that and read the book, Born on Third Base, and here is this white man saying, I think we need to take a look at reparations. After understanding and learning what I now didn't know, and now what I know, I think we really need to look at reparations and what that means. And that's amazing. It's amazing to be able to understand the truth in terms of how this country really has become the country that it is, off of 250 years of enslavement and free labor from African people. And so that, again, there's just amazing people in this community, and I think what you're doing is wonderful, and we just have to keep doing it and see what happens.
Well, let's jump back to the World of Wellesley. How was your participation?
I mean, it's been, you know, I never look at, you know, numbers in terms of, oh, it needs to have more, or it didn't have enough, or, you know, you have to stay positive in this work. You have to stay hopeful in this work. That
Does that mean it's not as you would like it to be?
No, I just don't have those expectations. I just don't have those expectations. At the end of the day, Richard, every event that World of Wellesley puts forth, whoever is there is exactly who's supposed to be there. And that is the way I look at it. Not one person more, not one person less. Whoever shows up that's who I want there, and that's who's supposed to be there. No. And who you're supposed to reach and what you're supposed to do. So I really don't look at it, the glass half full, the glass empty, any of that. You know, this is a journey. We're on a journey, and we know this is slow, right, Richard? I don't have to tell you.
We're on the wrong journey
this
at
is
the
slow.
moment, though, because we have, I remember the days of Martin King, and Martin's And my father used to preach that all we have to do is wait and let all the old folks die.
Oh.
And all the bigots and all the race haters and race mongers and people who really don't want to see an integrated society. All we got to do is just wait, and they'll die.
Yeah, it's not the way it works.
Didn't work.
It's not the way it works.
Didn't work. Didn't
No.
work. Didn't work. We are now embroiled in racism in its greatest height. And the question is, what do we do about it, and where do we go?
Absolutely.
What do we do, and where do we go?
Absolutely.
And so it's at the highest levels of our world.
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be some alternative to all this crap. There has to be some.
Well, you figure out what that is, you let me know.
The question is, how does it filter down to a town like Wellesley?
It has. It has.
Yes, I know it has, because I've been a victim of it. And I probably still am a victim of it, and I don't.
We live in a racist society. There's no way to escape it. Racism, like Dr. Beverly Daniel Tatum says, is smog. Okay, we live in a racial smog. It is everywhere. It's in this room. It's outside this room. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So
who are you talking to?
I'm talking to anyone who will listen.
You're not talking to them.
Who's them?
We the racists, the mongers, the haters.
You know,
the people who create problems, the invisible makers of noise, who create and try to destroy reputations in people.
Yeah, I understand.
The cowards of the society.
You talk to.
You're not talking to them.
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. I co-facilitate a workshop called White People Challenging Racism. It's a 5-week workshop, and on the 3rd week, a neo-Nazi white nationalist outed himself after being in the class for 3 weeks, and sent a horrific email to all the participants in the class. And I was called horrific things and was wished horrific things happened to me because I was a race traitor. So, you know, it's out there. We have to obviously understand that, but the majority of the people are not like that. And
They're not like that, but they sit comfortably allow those who are like that to continue to perpetrate their acts and their attitudes.
Absolutely.
Michelle, people who do heinous things, evil things to people, are faceless and are not honest, not decent, and they are also unkindly as well as being unscrupulous. The acts of hang in there a minute. The acts of conspiracy have legal ramifications and can be met with legal resources. It's unfortunate that a person or persons would cease to do any kind of harm that would appear to fall into that category of conspiracy. It's unfortunate that people who listen to people like this are like Lehman. The only problem is they don't know how high the cliff is that they must go over to perpetuate this kind of activity. And anyway, this is a great town. I've been here 37 years. 25 of it I gave service to the town. And I don't plan on doing anything but living here and enjoying the rest of my life here.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of amazing people doing an amazing work. And unfortunately, it is slow. And unfortunately...
how about a snail pace?
Well, but at least we're moving forward. Right? I mean, I feel like...
The snails move so slow that they get trampled on.
Richard, you have to have hope, because otherwise it can actually...
I am a man of hope.
You have
I'm
to
also a
be.
man
There's
of
no way that you
pessimism.
Well, I can understand. As a person of color, I could understand. Yes, I can understand. And yeah, I can understand. And as a white person, I have to keep pushing forward. You know, I'm live in a racist society. I am racist.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I never knew that about you.
We are all racist in terms
Don't
of
include
white
me
people.
in your category.
White people. White people are all racist because we live in a racist society.
Right.
And if we have to admit that and get over that, you know, very rarely do I use the term racist and, you know, calling people racist and saying you're a racist. That defeats, you know, and pushes people back. I think that it's more important to talk about what we need to do, how we need to understand.
If you don't use the term racist or racism, what kind of a message would you send?
No, you have to talk about racism. You have to talk about white supremacy. Yeah. Absolutely. No. But what I mean is that if you're having a conversation with someone and you start out name calling, your conversation has ended.
Of course it is.
Absolutely. So that's why I don't...
Everybody gets defensive.
Absolutely. And rightly so. I mean, in a sense, again, that's why I think, you know, you come together, you have a conversation. We all, as white people, agree that we're all racist, and what do we do about it?
They're not, nobody's going to agree to that.
Well, there's a lot of white people who do.
No one who is black, brown, or yellow.
Well, people of color cannot be racist.
Is going to agree to that.
Racism requires race,
nobody's going to make that
plus
self-confession.
Power. Yeah.
Even those who are rabid are not going to make that. Even as they're chopping off
white
your head.
White people are racist.
They're not going to make that.
Again, if you understand the definition, if you understand the systems, you understand the power dynamics, you understand white supremacy, then you understand racism. And again, it's, you know, these labels and terms, all of that is useless. White people, you know, guilty, that's useless. You know, we need to move beyond that. We need to be beyond that. We need to have a fundamental and a foundational understanding of our history. We need to understand how this country was founded. We need to understand the biology of...
What makes you think there is no understanding, even among racists?
People have no idea that, and again, I'm generalizing, but a lot of people that I come in contact with and that I have conversations with or talk with do not understand that race is not biological, that race is not rooted in genetics, that race is not real, that it is a social construct created to justify slavery.
So all those folks who outlived Martin's Hope are not genetically bound.
We are all 99.9% the same, Richard. So biologically, we are one species, and you know, it's amazing how many people don't know that. I mean, I was just talking to a biologist, and he was so upset because he was like, how can I be a trained biologist and have studied biology, and I am in the biological fields, and I have no idea that race is not rooted in biology? How do I not know that? And it's upsetting. It's upsetting for a lot of people because they don't understand. They feel, you know, some people said they've been duped. And a lot, in reality, we have been. We have been. We have not been taught the truth. We have not been taught to really understand what race is and what race isn't, what racism is, what it is to live in a racist society, what white supremacy is, to really understand superiority by, you know, that by white people thinking that somehow they're more superior than somebody else. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. It doesn't make any sense. Absolutely historic. Absolutely. 400 years and counting in this country. It was created for political and economic gains, and it's worked really well. It has worked extremely well. But it is to our detriment. It is truly to our detriment. And again, it's slow conversations, it's intimate conversations. A lot of times it's one-on-one. But I had a woman come up to me the other day and said, you know, Michelle, very few people have impacted me in my life than you have. And getting me to see what I didn't know I didn't know. And I thank you for that, because now I see things differently.
That's good.
And some of the things that I've been involved in, and some of the things that I thought that I was a good person in providing for these charities or being involved in this good activity, when I realized that that wasn't change, that that actually was sustaining the problem, that was actually not doing anything to create justice where there's injustice. And I'm going to do things differently now. And that is amazing. And that's, like you said, those things when people come up to you and tell you you're, you know, keep doing it, you're doing good work. That's what keeps us going.
So where are you going from here?
You know, I want the community.
What would you like to do?
I want to listen to the community. I want to listen to the community. I want the community to direct where their values are and what the community wants.
How are they going to do that?
You know, people are coming up, joining World of Wellesley. We have a new board member on World of Wellesley. We have several other people that want to be involved in what we're doing. We have young people that are involved in what we're doing. We are really excited about the collaboration.
So the change is incremental.
Absolutely, absolutely. But World of Wellesley is a place that now community members, when something happens, they reach out. They are connected to the World of Wellesley. They know when that incident happened over the summer with those students at Wellesley High School that said and wrote horrific things on Facebook. That night, you know, community members reached out to World of Wellesley and said, we need, you know, I want you to do something, and this is what happened, and this is how I feel. And so that is amazing when you become an organization that becomes part of the town, that the town knows that, yeah, when things happen like this, we want action.
How can I get these people to come on the Learning Tree and talk? It seems
absolutely. I would love to have, I'll get you in contact with that man that said that we need to have reparations. I want you to have a conversation with him. Absolutely.
We need what?
Reparations.
Reparation, okay.
Yeah. I think you should talk with him.
Well, I can't seem to get anybody to come and play with me on the show.
Well, you have to.
There seems to be.
We'll make that, Richard.
There seems to be a little consistent.
I think you just keep asking the same kind of people. We have to try to diversify the learning tree.
Well, you got to have people to come.
Well, you have to make connections.
That diversity happen.
You got to make connections. I'll connect you to some people, and we'll get you some people to talk to. I think for you to talk to some community members and people that have been impacted by some of the events and things that World of Wellesley has offered, I think would be a great idea. I think there's a lot of students that would be willing to talk to you.
Shows.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you did great work before. You still do good work.
Well, thank you.
But
I enjoyed.
I don't get the benefit of your great work.
Listen, I enjoy being part of the Learning Tree. I was glad I had that opportunity. I really am. I think you're doing a great job.
It was nice having you, and I think we've exhausted the subject.
Yes, I don't even know what time it is.
Both the Learning Tree and
World of
Wellesley.
Well, you know that I could talk about it forever. So
I know, yeah, I know. But there have been we've had some good shows. You know, the Wellesley Fund came, and we had a show with the Wellesley Fund. And we've had a show with some of the other great organizations in town, and people, you know. And a nice program with Al Robinson when he retired, with Vin and Tony Parker, and North Hill. North Hill was a great program. That executive director of marketing, the vice president of marketing came with Tony and a couple of the other people from North Hill. So we've had some very good programs, and want to continue on.
Absolutely. Well, here's to another 3 years.
Is it Scotch in there?
Congratulations, Richard. Good job.
Thank you, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You've always been a good friend.
Yes.
Hang in there, friend.
Yes, you too.
Okay. Well, you've heard us carry on here. We like to do this kind of thing because we like to see if anybody's listening to begin with and watching. And next, we want to know if anybody's doing anything in relation to the issues that we have exposed. And that's what the Learning Tree is all about, exposing and issues, and at least getting to a point where we can have some discussion about them and a better understanding. I hope you enjoyed what we did here tonight. If not, don't let us know. Thank you and good evening. I am Richard S. McGee, and this is the Learning Tree.